welcome to the Blood Brothers podcast. I'm joined tonight by Chris McDonald, author.
Hello.
And we're also joined by Gytha Lodge, who's the author of She Lies in Wait and Watching from the Dark. Good evening.
Hello. Good evening.
Hello.
Did I pronounce you right?
You did. Yes, you did. Yeah, I just did a tweet about this today. It's really impossible, my name, and I have complete understanding of people getting it completely wrong because it looks like it says maybe Gytha or maybe, I don't know, Gyta, or I mean, a lot of people go with Cynthia because they just think it needs to be more reasonable.
Yeah,
and,
I
like that too.
So I'm going to call you something entirely different. Cynthia is what I've decided.
Yeah, that's an actual name, Gytha. That's an actual name. Whereas I did have a client who used to call me Geisha, which I found oddly exciting. I should specify.
It depends on the client, isn't it? You're like, that'd be exciting from one and horribly creepy.
It's all fine. Just a lovely lady who works in HR. It was fine.
She only worked in HR. It wasn't important that she knew your name or anything.
Not even slightly.
I love it. I mean, I think I get enough. I get Sean, but because it's spelled SEAN, I also get Dean.
Dean.
Which you're like, well, okay, but
Sean is a name.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I should have had the Welsh spelling. Apparently, my dad's a Welshman, so it should have been Sion. But he was of the firm belief in the 70s that a computer wouldn't be able to do a circumflex over the O, over the I, wherever it's supposed to be. So I got the I.
Point.
It might have been one of the only points he ever had, but
he wins.
He wins. So welcome. Thank you for joining us on this lovely Monday evening.
Oh, it's lovely to be here.
I noticed that your Watching from the Dark came out 2 days after Chris McDonald's debut. You were the 4th of February. He was the... Oh no, you 3. He was the 1st of February.
I didn't know that. That's nice.
So
yes, I remember at the time. Yeah, we were kind of accidental buddies. But I think the trouble was we were both then so heads down in sort of promotion that probably we didn't stop and notice in an odd sort of way.
That's sad.
And it just feels like a lifetime away because that's the last book launch we as a publisher were able to actually attend.
Yeah.
Because everything else has happened in this sort of weird zone. And interestingly, Chris, we were going to be doing a live signing in Chris's hometown in Coleraine.
Yeah.
That got cancelled. And we said, never mind, this will all have blown over. When your second book comes out in November, we'll do a double signing. Well, we got...
Yeah. I think you might not. No.
When your third book comes out next March.
I know. I'm the other night, usually I'm not too bothered about being homesick or whatever, but the other night I saw a picture of home and I was like, it just sent me into like a sort of despair. And I thought about, we were going to go and it's just not going to happen. So I miss my dog.
Yeah. Oh, that's very sad.
Good to you miss your granny and your mum as well.
Yeah, obviously. Yeah. Dog, yeah, I love them.
Priorities, though.
Yeah.
Come on.
I actually, the day after I got my acceptance from Red Dog, I went to Morecambe and Vice where you were doing a panel with William Shaw.
Yes.
So it was like my first ever literary thing, and it was very, very cool.
Oh, that was great fun. Morecambe was brilliant. It was a sort of a completely other wonderful experience. I loved it.
Yeah, I went on my own as well. And everyone was just so friendly, and I was sort of very shy and nervous, and didn't talk to anyone that didn't come and talk to me first.
Oh,
and now I'm out there, and I'll talk to anyone. So I've blossomed.
You've blossomed all because of the book.
All because
of
the
books.
People, yeah.
Aww.
And your books.
Yeah, and
Let's talk about your books.
This very strange lockdown experience that we've had. We started this podcast on the first week of lockdown. And so every week we go, it's episode 25. That's how long we've been in lockdown. And it's really weird, but it means that, we've ended up making friends with a lot of very lovely authors by just chatting to them for an hour doing this. Yeah. So let's hope to keep that going. Don't I
No pressure, yeah.
Okay. For those who haven't read it for whatever very odd reason, can you tell us a little bit about Watching from the Dark?
Sure, I can. So Watching from the Dark is the second in the Jonah Sheen series. So he's the investigator, and it's really about him and his team rather than just him. I don't tend to, for some reason, write sort of lone maverick types. I write teams who have lots of different skill sets and interesting relationships, I hope. But the second book is about a man who just logs onto Skype to talk to his girlfriend. And instead of getting to talk to her, he ends up witnessing a very violent attack on her and is convinced something is very badly wrong and that she's very badly wounded, but has his own reasons for being very wary of talking to the police. So he ends up trying to announce it by a series of somewhat cryptic messages. And so it actually takes Jonah and his team quite a long time to get to the bottom of what's happened, and then to find the body and start trying to work out who would want to kill Zoe, this warm-hearted, very kind young artist who had a circle of very needy friends who you'd think would all really rely on her. And a lot of secrets ultimately come out. And then the team themselves have their own stories that go on through it as well. So for anyone who's read She Lies in Wait, the same team continues, and the interesting stuff hopefully builds a little bit.
Mm. And is that something you... we were talking about this last week as well, in terms of that sort of creating a series of characters and returning characters, and their arcs travel at this speed, slow and anarchy, and then you've got the thriller bit in between. You've got the crime and the caper and the everything else, and the police procedural going on that has to go at its own pace, and it's quite an interesting balance. And I think some people find comfort in having the series and the returning characters and getting to know people and going, right, where are we in their story? And other people find that a massive restriction to that plot. And so was that comfortable for you when you started, or did you set out?
Yeah. I mean, for me, I think I tended to slightly veer too much towards having lots of sort of character stuff going on with the team, and then having to ultimately pare it back, because when I read back over it, I realised that the pace then suffered, which I think is sort of a necessary thing. You can't have everything stuffed into one book, which is really unfair.
It's really unfair.
It's really unfair. So the nice thing was, because I knew I had a contract initially for the first 3 books, which is now the first 5, I knew that I could come back and revisit all of this in the next book and the next book. So I didn't feel there was a pressure to get everything in there. Yeah. So those stories became that little bit slower, as we've said. And actually, there's a huge amount of enjoyment to a little bit of stringing out. I've started to discover I quite like it. It's sort of, in every sense, everyone's relationships are complex, and there's a lot of sort of will they, won't they, in different ways with them. It's not all, it's not romance. It's complicated, and seeing what happens to people when some of them, for example, make interesting choices about whether or not they can get involved with someone who's been a suspect in a previous case, and that kind of thing, and how that all pans out. So actually, I'm oddly really enjoying having had to slow it down, but I didn't think I would.
And did they when you first came up with the concept of the first book of She Lies in Wait, did you go, this is going to be a series? Or did you go, I've got an idea for a book?
Yeah, so it was definitely a single idea that then became quite quickly, I'd love to write a series. Partly my fab agent pointed out how cool it would be if I could keep bringing these characters back. And I was, just really there for that and thinking, yes, she's right. So rather than write quite a lot of it from the perspective of the people in the case, which is what I was originally going to do, I really split it down so it's half and half. It's slightly more the police procedural element than it is the kind of suspense element, but it is only slightly more, and that's then something I've carried through into each of the other books. So now I'm midway through writing book 4, and the structure is somewhat similar in that you're seeing the perspective of the people involved in the crime, and then you're also seeing the police procedural element. So it was one idea certainly in the first place that I loved, that then became quite beneficially a whole series.
It's brilliant. I love it when that happens, when you find those characters and you go, you're going to stick around for a bit. Come on, let's go.
In you come. Fortunately, I quite like them.
Lovely.
With your so with like the initial ideas, because the second one, like you say, he logs onto Skype and sees something I miss, and then I was on Amazon earlier and I've seen that the third book, the sort of description and the cover, which is amazing by the way, is up. And again, that initial, there's not a lot of detail on there, but the initial premise is like massive. So do you start? It's a ridiculous question, but do you start at the start? Like, do you have one big massive idea and then go from there?
Definitely, yeah. I always think that a book is definitely more than one idea. Without question, I think it's loads of ideas, isn't it? And you must feel the same, that it's never just the one thing. But I always want the spine tingle idea, and that's what I always try so hard to do. And in fact, I had a different idea for book 3 originally, completely and utterly different. And I started looking at planning it, and I was just going, you know what? It's just not making me kind of go, ooh, like, I should feel like I should be. So I just decided I wanted to think of something a bit more, interesting. And the funny thing is the way the brain works, and I think everyone's different in this. And some people, if they sit down and try to think of an idea, really struggle with it, and they have to not. For me, unless I do sit down and search for an idea, I don't find one. So I just basically said to myself, no, I need a different idea. And within about half an hour, I had one. And I really find that really interesting. J.K. Rowling was talking about the fact that for her, it's like inspiration is a pool or a lake, and she fishes in it. And if she goes down there and she fishes consciously and she's in there kind of going, come on, nothing happens. But as she goes and locks up her fishing hut and she walks off, a little idea will pop up. And so I just think everyone's brain obviously works in a really different way. But I'm happiest kind of searching for an idea and going, that's the job. That's the one that I want to write. So
I find that fascinating because I've always had I have this thing where I'll read something and I think that's bloody fascinating. I'll put that in a book one day. And it sort of fits and it percolates behind and other things get written and, either scripts or books or whatever. And then in a couple of years after I first read it, I go, no, let's go. That's the one. And it's always been that way.
That's interesting.
There's this thing that you go, I'm not ready for it, but that's definitely going to be a book, which probably means I'm always about 2 years behind the zeitgeist, but never mind.
Probably a good place to be.
Because you're retro.
That's
cool. I quite like that.
Will be out next week.
Have you always been? I mean, you sent me a sort of thing for my school, writing advice, which we used on our inset day actually for the teachers. But you said that you at school during other lessons would be like scribbling away and stuff like that. So you've always been a writer. That's what you've always wanted to do?
Definitely. It's been so apart from a brief period where I dallied with maybe I could also be a lawyer, because people kept saying to me, you're right, gobshite, you should be a barrister. I was like, thanks. Yes, that's obviously the one skill you need. But I realised I wasn't really interested in that. And then very, very much later, when I was basically out of uni, I really wanted to be an opera singer. And I actually got really close to being an opera singer. I was going to go to the Royal Academy and I was all set up and really excited about it. Still writing all the time in the background, but was going to do the singing thing. And I had this taster day there, sort of like, what it's going to be actually like when you're there. And I suddenly was like, oh God, basically I like singing like a bit of the time and I like writing all the time. And I had this awful realization that it just wasn't going to work because I was never going to be great if I didn't have the passion for it. So I backed out, and I'm sure really upset my singing teacher, who was so there for me about the whole thing, and then went back to the writing plan. So which would not be any surprise to any of my primary school teachers onwards, who always knew that I was always writing something. So it kind of made sense, didn't it? But they just took a while.
You're right, because I was all set to go and do law. That's what I was always going to do.
You're kidding.
And I got into uni to do law. I was going to do law. It was definitely happening. And I was going to go to Oxford, not Cambridge, where you went, but I was going to do law. And Bournemouth University went from a College of Higher Education to a polytechnic to a university in the space of about a week and a half, and credited a script writing degree, and ran an ad in the Times saying we need students.
Wow.
And I was like, screw law, I'm gonna write films.
I love it. I absolutely love it.
And it was the most ridiculous, because I probably would have been a far more successful script writer for film and TV if I'd gone to Oxford and gone through the same route as every other script writer for film and TV. But I didn't know that. I didn't have anybody to advise. I just thought, I'll do a degree in this writing, lark. It'll be fun.
It'll be great.
It was bloody hilarious fun, but yeah.
And I bet you learned an awful lot more about script writing than you would have done if you'd done law. So, you know.
Yeah, and I probably, over the years, have learnt a lot more about law than I would have done if I'd ever attended the bloody lectures.
So it's all perfect. It came
all
out well.
worked out brilliantly.
I suddenly feel very out of my depth here. I didn't get the grades to get in to do French at Northumbria, so I got into doing teaching through clearing. So that's
I didn't know you were a Frenchman.
Say again?
I didn't know you were a Francophile.
Yeah, well, I did better at A level in French than I did in English.
Wow.
Which I don't know what that says.
I do think English literature is a really different A level to writing. I mean, it's nothing like writing. I think this very strongly, and it fascinated me. So when I was at Cambridge, they had one creative writing portfolio that you could submit, a piece of something, and it didn't count for anything unless you were on the cusp between one grade and another, at which point it would tip you one way or the other. And there was pretty much. It was. I mean, and it never really happened. I don't think people really ended up ever right on the boundary. But the fascinating thing was there was an absolute inverse correlation between people who got firsts at their degrees and people who were good writers. As in at that point. And I don't think it's because necessarily those people could not become good writers, but I think it just uses your brain in such a profoundly different way that you are, if you're really acing the analytical side of it, I just don't think you write very well. I think you're too in there going, and you're not, you never let it flow. And I've never written less than when I was at uni. And I just think that's the whole kind of thing that's behind it. So it sort of doesn't surprise me that you didn't super enjoy English A level, Chris, because I think it's really different. I think
Yeah, but also it's that sort of shift from everything you did enjoy about GCSE and previous years of doing creative writing and writing stories and everything else, and then you do A level and you basically just sit there going, well, I genuinely don't believe the author intended to have as many themes as you and the York Notes have pulled out of this. Because
so true.
He probably was just making it up and went, oh yeah, I mentioned orange earlier. I'm going to do it again. Brilliant. But I remember having a stand-up argument with my English A-level teacher about Dickens. And I had two teachers and they were both fantastic, but she was obsessed with Dickens and he could do no wrong. And I kept pointing out that he could do quite a lot wrong because he'd introduce thousands of characters up front. You'd spend 5 or 6 pages getting to know somebody and then they'd just piss off into the wind and you'd never see them again. Martin Chuzzlewit, for example. And it was only when I was writing my first novel, which was being published by a German publisher, and they wanted it as a serialized novel, and they were publishing they were doing it in 20,000 word chunks, so 6 20,000 word chunks, and I didn't realize when I agreed to do it that I wouldn't be able to go back and edit the beginning, having written the end. They were already, I submitted the first 20,000 word chunk went to my editor, the publisher, and the translator at the same time, with the view that they could retranslate anything I needed changing, but it was going to be taken as pretty much a finished draft. And you're like, oh shit, I've never written a novel before. Why are you saying, what's this now?
Oh my goodness.
Thing. And so I got to the end and thought, God, I would really like to go back and change loads of those characters I threw up in the beginning of the book. It turned out I didn't really need.
And then did you actually then sympathise with Dickens?
So I suddenly was like, and one of the reviewers went, it's serialized novel writing in the style of Dickens, and I was like, I'm so sorry, Charles. I didn't mean it. I understand everything now. You had nothing. You were just knocking the it out for the magazine. I got it. So, with hindsight, I tried to get back in touch with her, but she unfortunately had passed away in the interim. Hopefully, forgiven me for my anti-Dickensian stance, but
she probably liked your passion.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a well-thought argument, which is why she thought I'd be law.
Teachers are fine with that, rather than just storming out. Can you tell us about your road to publication then?
Oh, so mine. It was very long and drawn out. It was having obviously decided then that I wanted to do the writing thing properly. In fact, the very first time I decided I wanted to do writing properly, I wrote a terrible novel when I was 14. And I sent it to the chief editor of Transworld, Tim Manderson, because that's what you do when you're 14. You think you're special.
Yeah, nailed it.
Yeah, I nailed it. But thankfully, because he was a wonderful, wonderful man, he actually rang me up to talk me through everything that wasn't really ready about my writing yet. Was also very, very complimentary in a kind of encouraging way, and sort of said, give it a few years, and when you do come to look at a book again, I'd really like first refusal on it, because I think you've got something, that was brilliant. But the fact is, it's a source of huge sadness to me that by the time I was published in 2013, he had by that point died, so I never got to go to him and sort of say, "Hooray, I made it," or say, "Would you like to see it?" But because it really was one of those great things that keep you going. And I then, when I was at uni, was sort of dabbling with a lot of theatre. I mean, I was acting in huge numbers of things when I should really have been in lectures. And I suddenly thought, well, why don't I actually write a play? And I'm surprised it took me that long, because I'd been doing it the whole way through my teenage years as well. So I then got really involved in theatre writing and spent a lot of time trying to juggle that with a job afterwards. And then I went full-time as a theatre writer and just took the bullet, because I was bit the bullet, that's the phrase, took the plunge, one of those. And a
bit more final, but sure.
Yeah, well, one of those things. I was working as a marketing manager, and honestly just dying quietly in my job. And I just thought, in the end, sod it, I'm just going to leave and just do this full time. So I took a huge pay cut to do it, but then spent basically 7 years largely just doing plays and touring plays, and with some copywriting on the side to help make ends meet. And loved it, absolutely loved it. Learned huge amounts, I think, during that time, because obviously it's theatre. Everybody's got an opinion on your work. Just everybody, as you all know, Sean. It's the same as TV and film. And I just picked up a lot. Picked up when not to take it on board, someone's opinion, as well as when to take it on board. And yeah, I just had a blast. But then I just desperately wanted to do the novel thing. So having then had a small boy, I thought I'd better to get a proper job for a bit and try and write a book in the background, which I managed to do, only really by because having then got my fabulous agent Felicity whilst I was at UEA, she basically stalked me until I actually finished it, which was great. So in fact, I missed a stage, because the first book she signed me for went out to publishers and did not sell. And that's something that I think a lot of people should know about, because I think I had this huge perception that once you have an agent, you'll just get a publishing deal and it'll all be easy and fine. And it was actually really hard. I mean, I was devastated, and I thought my career was over. And then she was brilliant, and she just said, look, come on, this happens a lot, and we are going to be in each other's lives a long time. You've got this great idea for another book, just write that one. So
and also it's just when you need somebody like that who's been around the industry enough to know it's just not the time for that book. Its time might come again. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Just do the next one. But it's really hard to kind of go, oh, right, bootstraps, let's go.
It is. And it did take me a while, and that's partly why she kept having to actually stalk me, because I was honestly trying to pick myself up off the floor and think I can do this. And then once I got the first draft done, which was never going to be perfect because of having written through this kind of constant self-doubt. By the time that was done, and then I started to edit it, I felt back on top of it, and I felt like, I can do this. I can write. So So then it was in total with that whole process and trying to fit it around a child and a job, which was quite full on. It took me 5 years to go from brilliant agent to contract. So it's a long time. It's a long time.
And I do think that is a sanguine lesson for people to hear. It's just, because there's this sort of people hold up, big agent, and you're Curtis Brown, aren't you? The agency.
Yes.
So
yeah.
They're not small fry. They know how to get a deal, and the difficulty with everything. It's like when your book has been published and somebody picks it up and goes, "No, I didn't like it." 1 star, rubbish, and you go, "Well, it's not. It's just you didn't like it." And that's the thing with trying to sell a book in an environment where everybody's looking for the next thing, but it has to be a bit like the last thing because it's safe, the last thing, and the next thing doesn't have to be too different. And it's really hard to.
It's so complex, isn't it?
Yeah, and you just kind of and you'll know this from stage writing. You can write something amazing. Everybody else has fucked it up. By the time it's getting the bad reviews, it's not because of your writing. It's because the director did this and the actor was that and the producer was this guy. And so, you can always sort of eschew some of the blame for a failed production on somebody else, not just the writer. But when it's a novel and people go, "No, we just don't like it," or "It's just not for us," and it just gets, you just go, "Those words just came from me, and it was just me and the page, and there's been an editorial process." But it's a really personal thing.
At this point, sorry, you can go on and I'll get it ready.
No, go for it.
I was going to say, Rob Parker isn't here tonight because usually there's 3 of us. But he sent through some audio questions, so I thought if I play it through the microphone, I might pick them up. But it's kind of on this topic. So this was his question 3. So if this doesn't work, I'll just say it, but let's see.
Last question for you, Gytha, from me is one of my favourites. What is your favourite 1-star review of one of your own books? Do you have one? Because I got loads.
Did that work?
I'm trying to think. That was great. So what my favourite 1-star review? I think that's such a good question. It's brilliant. I'm trying to think of the 1-star ones that were. I think the one where someone basically said, it's amazing, didn't engage with this at all, just couldn't read it. Then right at the end said, "Maybe I'm just in a bad mood. I'll try again in a minute." Which I thought. Could you have done that before you wrote the review? It would have been lovely.
You wanted to write the review, then you gave it the effort to get out of your bad. Go for a walk.
It's so sweet. But I quite appreciated it as well as thinking, "Oh, sigh." But it was also an excellent. Actually, it wasn't. I think it was a 2-star review I had. Maybe somewhere in that region, where a guy basically said that he thought it was very derivative of the Jane Harper novel. That is the Burning Man or something. Anyway, the second one, and I have to say, I have not read it, and I really now very much want to, as you'll find out why, because he basically said it was very derivative of this book, but it wasn't like it in all these ways, which made it bad. And I just was like, I'm not sure there was any way of winning that one other than having been Jane Harper and having written her book. So.
That was definitely the lose-lose of reviews, wasn't it? You just like, it reminded me a lot of this book that I really enjoyed, but because it wasn't anything like it.
2 stars for you. It was very, very amusing. So it's one of those ones where you somewhere torn somewhere between thinking, you horrible man, and also thinking that is genuinely very funny. So
I think you sometimes have to. I always sort of run down the line of you've taken the time. You've bought the book, so yay, got the money. B, you've taken the time to go online, register, start, and then write all of that down.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of somebody's life that they've dedicated to, whether it's positive or negative. You're just like, at least I instilled some kind of.
That's it. Yeah. I mean, at least it's some form of attention, and I'm a middle child, so I'm all over that. I'm just, someone said something about me, yay! So It's fine. It's fine. And I think one of the really good things about the theatre background and then the UEA creative writing MA as well, those two bits where I just got constant feedback has made me so much tougher than I think I would have been, and so much less likely to kind of just panic and think, oh my God, I need to change my writing, or people hate me, because I think, as you know, the other problem with being a middle child is I think I'm fundamentally a bit of a people pleaser, and I think all that stuff has really toughened me up, because when you get to the end of a run and your main piece of feedback from one of your technical team is not, wow, what a fantastic run that was, we did really well, but next time you print out one of these plays, can you format it differently? Because I couldn't read the script very well. I mean, you just have to kind of go, okay.
Yeah.
That's what matters to you, and I understand that, and I kind of respect that. So.
But I think that is, I mean, that's also an incredibly valuable lesson for writers going into things and people just hitting their debuts or awaiting debuts to be published, is that the biggest thing you have to know as a writer is that you are on your own in a lot of ways, but you've got a good team behind you with your publisher and your editors and everybody else. But essentially, you have to be resilient, and you can't let people's opinions steer you off course. Well, not readers and reviewers' opinions, because you've got to trust the people who've said this is ready for market. This is it now. This is the best version of this that it's ever going to be, and that is part of the team. But your personal resilience, because it is such a personal thing, writing a novel versus writing other things. Yes. I think you have to really get a bit of rhino hide on you and go, thanks for your opinion, but
I'm going to get that one out.
My mum always says, opinions are like arseholes. Everybody's got one, but the only one used to you is your own. And you're like, thank you.
No, I've never heard that second bit. That's great.
Yeah.
Love it. I love it.
Can I ask, with She Lies in Wait, when it came out and it gone to the Richard and Judy book club and stuff, were you expecting that? Were you expecting such a big sort of rapturous?
Not at all. I think the thing about the Richard and Judy was I did know that it was going to be put in for it. I thought I had very little chance because I knew how competitive it was, and we hadn't heard anything by really late. So I just had, by that point, completely gone, oh well, never mind, written it off. I remember having a conversation with another author about it, and her saying, it's fine, I've never got it either, I've been fine, don't worry about it. And then about 2 days later, basically having a conversation where they said, look, we actually really want to feature it. We just want to do it in the winter, not the autumn, because we think it fits better. So it was selected. And and then I had to wait about 7 months before I was allowed to tell anyone.
Oh my God, that's worse than being selected for Strictly.
It was. It must be. I would so love to do Strictly, but just by the way.
My entire ambition in life is to be famous enough to be invited on Strictly. That's it.
Exactly. I'm with you. We'll do it one day.
Yeah, right.
But, I couldn't stand it. I thought I was actually going to explode, and it made worse by the fact that I did tell my mum, and she was one of the only about 2 people I told. And I said to her, look, so it's top secret. It really can't go anywhere because it's ages before it's announced. So you can't tell anyone, because she does love a gossip, my mum. And she basically said, oh, right, okay, well, we won't talk about that then. Now, I think you're getting some new phones. You're the one person who was supposed to celebrate this with me.
The only person I was allowed to tell, and now you just won't talk about it. Yeah.
I think she didn't quite get, I didn't mean to me, maybe was the problem.
Yeah. I kind of had that with my granny when I phoned her to say, I've signed a new 2-book deal. And she was like, are you going to bother? Isn't that a lot of work? I was like,
what?
I was like, yeah, I probably will.
Wow.
Is this the granny? Is this the granny who had a new stair carpet fitted because I was going to stay in her house?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm glad you bloody did bother. And we haven't even been to tread our muddy, filthy boots on it yet.
No, I know. So
is that because of lockdown?
Because he hasn't been allowed home. I was going to go and stay with his granny.
Yeah, she got new stair carpet put in, especially for Sean.
I thought it was a euphemism when he said, my granny's had new carpet put in for you. I was like, what the hell's happening in this family? But apparently it was just genuinely...
I've never heard that. Don't say that again. Moving swiftly on.
Rob Parker's face at this point. What were Rob's other questions? You gave us question 3, but what was his 1 and 2?
Well, first of all, can I, because fresh in my sort of head at the minute is my book 2 is coming out very soon, and I'm sort of bricking it a little bit. How did you feel on the run up to your second one? Because obviously your first one was like big. Did you have nerves, or were you excited, or how did you feel? Yeah. That's fine then. That's fine.
No, I was totally the same. I think neither time have I had any good sleep in the full week preceding. I've been so kind of on edge about it, and I think I'm hoping with book 3 I'll calm the heck down a bit, because it's just really silly. Do you think it's not going to happen?
But you won't.
Oh, I really want to. I hate myself when I'm like that. I just irritate myself. But I guess it's really natural, isn't it? It's because it's such a big thing, and you've put so much time in, and everyone else has too. And I think I don't know if you're the same, Chris. Do you feel kind of like you're letting everyone else down if it doesn't do well as well? And
especially because obviously Sean and I are like friends, and he's my publisher, so it's sort of like sort of worse. Like when I submitted it to him, I was like, pretty much like, if you hate it, I'm sorry. And then because I've recently signed a thing with Red Dog again for like a set of cozy books.
Have you?
I've written like sort of novellas.
Really brilliant.
That's very cool.
But I sent it and I was like, I genuinely don't want you to take it just because, like, if you reject it, I'm fine with that.
That's not how business works, Chris.
Yeah, but in my head, I just didn't want for you to be like, yeah, we'll do it, but it's not great.
That's not going to happen.
They're not that altruistic, it's all good.
Yeah. Can you talk about book 3?
I think I can. See, I haven't been for ages because it's not been actually announced yet. So how about I'll announce it on here? Because
whoa, Rob Parker would be doing something mental right now.
minutes and 42 seconds, and we're in for the...
You just keep doing Rob Parker impressions. It's all good. So it's now out on Amazon. So I must be allowed to say it's up, and I'm very excited about it. I've got my 9-year-old's just appeared in the doorway because he obviously wants to hear about it too, but he's gone away now. So book 3 is another Jonah Sheens. So I think it's my favourite premise so far. No, it definitely is. It definitely is.
Yeah, that is a hook and a half.
When you came up with that, were you like dancing around the room?
Well, I was in a Starbucks, so I was basically jiggling around in the Starbucks looking like an absolute fool. But
it was just, like somebody who'd had 3 too many macchiatos.
Actually, it's about right, because I for some reason can't tolerate coffee at all anymore, and I go really weird. So it's about right. Yeah.
That's obviously how you come up with your great hooks. So you're just going to have to deal with that intolerance at the beginning of every book.
Just take it, and the risk the potential devastating consequences for everyone around me.
Yeah, it's basically your mind's fight or flight response to caffeine gives you the next book. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah,
maybe that's it. It needs to do something.
That might just be the golden ticket to being a best-selling author.
I mean, sadly, it's quite expensive if I keep going to Starbucks. I might need to go somewhere else next time.
Yeah. Get an espresso machine, do it at home, whatever.
Yeah, French press it.
Other coffees available.
I have to say, I used to go and sit and work in Starbucks because when I was very poor, when I was a playwright, I really couldn't afford to go anywhere for coffee, really. And I just decided if I went to Starbucks, I didn't mind at all sitting in a chair all day and basically not buying anything. And when I say basically not buying anything, I mean turning up with my own tea bag in my pocket and asking for a mug of hot water. And then because I had a mug on the table and it looked like I had tea in it, they'd immediately assume that it had legitimacy to be there, and they wouldn't kick me out all day. So, hopefully no one from Starbucks is going to listen to this and then ban me. But
I'm sure they won't now.
it's too late for that now.
I'm sure anybody who works for Starbucks fully endorses your opinion. Would 100% encourage you with fly biscotti. Oh, it's a bit broken, dear. You can have that one.
They are actually very nice, the people who work in there. So,
yeah, exactly. They deserve better.
And when can we read book 3? When is it all right?
So, Lie Beside Me is out on, I think it's the 18th of February. I hope I've got that right. So it's not that long hence, which is good. And I absolutely cannot wait. And now that the cover's all decided and everything as well, which I really like. I'm super keen. So if I could fast forward, I sort of would. Only actually it's paperback this week and I'm very excited about that. And then it's Christmas and I'm excited about Christmas. So, I don't really want to fast forward. But,
yeah, that's quite a nice little sequence of things leading up to it, isn't it?
It's good. It's good. And straight after Christmas, it's my birthday as well.
Oh, man, you're killing it.
Yeah. It's a great time of year. Except that it's January. So, yeah. It's I'm really looking forward to it, and I'm going to be running lots of cool I think they're cool, lots of cool sort of draws and giveaways in the run up, because I figure it's straight after Christmas you need something to brighten every week. So.
Yeah,
it's really interesting because you have this sort of huge burst before Christmas of everybody being like and then around the sort of 18th everything just drops off because people are like, well, it's too late to order stuff now. I'm just going to use these details that I've found in my drawer. And then come January the 5th, there's just this huge rush again. Yeah, people are buying books.
It's true. And I think something that, that maybe starts at about that point is good, because I feel, as well as I want books, but I also want to feel that there's still some fun things, because I don't know about you, but I always get into a kind of very gloomy kind of ascetic kind of mode on about the 1st of January, where I'm like, there will be no more food. I will be very good. And honestly, by sort of the 5th or the 6th, I am just done with that. I want treats again.
I like to call the 6th of January wine day. I do actually like wine. I do quite like it.
Just remember, that's a kind of dry January length I am well on board with. I'm good with that.
I did January one year, and all of my friends who sponsored me went, I'll give you more money if you just shut the fuck up about not drinking, because you're a terrible bore. Well done. It's what the rest of us do every day.
People who don't do it just don't understand, do they? The struggle that involves, like I managed today.
You try and create people and worlds in your head and not drink while you're doing it.
and deal with social media. I mean, it's the combination, really.
And have people criticize you for not writing a book you didn't write. There's nothing
absolutely.
Like you never did.
It's no wonder the gin is so appealing.
Bloody, I love gin. We should all be sponsored by gin. I'm quite excited then about gin.
At this point, shall we have a question from mythical Rob Parker?
Oh, we should.
Shall I play him again? Here we go. Let's see.
Hi, Gytha. I'm sorry I can't be with you tonight, but I know you're a writer that juggles the words with a young family. I'm also in that position. How on earth do you do it? And do you have any tips that can help me continue to improve?
Oh, but Robson, he's nailing it though. He's doing brilliantly. I mean, he just seems to produce. And I really, really struggled at the beginning of lockdown. I had a mare about it, because I realised that I was doing everything badly. And I think this is probably a fairly universal experience, but I was doing parenting very badly because I was constantly looking at social media and the news, worrying about things. I was doing writing badly because of the above and the fact that every 30 seconds someone said mummy. And it it was the same person over and over again. And I felt like I wasn't getting out and doing enough sport because it's quite hard to motivate. I mean, in fact, we did quite a lot of little runs, did Rufus and I, but it wasn't the same as, I mean, basically my routine is I do the school run and I turn it into an actual run. And so I have that sort of bookending my day. I have a run in the morning and have a run in the afternoon. And then in the middle I work. And what I used to do was then run to a coffee shop and sit and write. And that's the other thing I found very hard. And then I'd normally come home in the middle and go out again. So there was lots of sort of structure and lots of movement and lots of change of scene. And suddenly being without all of those was incredibly hard. And plus we also locked down with my other half, who is a neurologist, and ended up being much more involved sort of on the hospital side than would normally happen because of sort of the crisis going on. And the funny thing about that is it meant he was either kind of on call and, being dragged in or being phoned in the middle of the night, or because all his clinics were not allowed to be face-to-face, sitting around in his pants answering the phone, which was also quite distracting in many ways. I mean, I just found the sort of the sloughing away of the professional exterior very troublesome. And so it was tough. And I think a lot of people found it just as tough. The nice thing was that once then Rivers was very lucky to be at a school where they managed to get a really good system in place very early. It's a smaller school, and they didn't have a lot of students they're trying to fit in for the last few weeks of summer. So he got to go back for quite a chunk. And the amazing thing about that was how the moment he was back, I felt such a surge of relief and kind of, hooray about everything, that I just wrote like fury. And that's been the saving grace, actually. The fact that I was so just yay and having my routine back and everything. I mean, I couldn't do the coffee shop writing anymore, but I've managed to set myself up at home. So it was fortunately quite good. And the other thing I did, which really genuinely, this is a tip to help, and it's a complete revelation to me. I started up a word count competition with the writer Tony Kent, and ultimately also with the writer Amanda Jennings as well. So we have a little thing where we basically met each other and go, right, it's on. And we have to basically beat each other over a set period of time. So we started off with who's going to write the most words in a week. Each week we'd check it. And then after a while, when our timetables got a bit hectic, we would just do sprints and just compare. And it's amazing how often in other circumstances I would not have sat down to write, that I just went, I'd really better, because I just don't want Tony or Amanda winning, Yeah.
But don't you find sprints are an incredible way of really enforcing a half hour or 25 minutes of absolute bastard dedication? And you go, I can't stop because 25 minutes, the alarm hasn't gone off. I've got 5 minutes in between that to get a coffee quickly. Go.
That's it.
I love it.
It's so much more focused, isn't it? It's really, and I mean, in one of them we did an hour and I wrote 1,800 words on one occasion.
Yeah.
And I was like, normally that would be, most of a day.
Your whole day.
Yeah. And it's mad. And it's so good when you're discussing it as well, because they're both such good writers as well. And I've been very lucky to, there's lots of you guys included, fab writers I've come into contact with now who I feel like I can now talk to about stuff. And it's just so inspirational. It's so inspirational. Yeah. And so I think I benefited from that. Yeah. So, I mean, another tip for anyone who's struggling is to find their support network if you possibly can. People who are like-minded.
It's that sense of accountability as well, or not accountability. It's like, if you say, right, I'm not drinking, or I'm not eating this, or I'm dieting, or I'm doing whatever, then you need to know that somebody's going to check that, or you just go, bollocks. I'm off now.
just today.
I'll start it tomorrow. I'll start it tomorrow. And I think if you set up like when I was doing my master's degree, there were sort of 5 of us who just set up a team just like that to read each other's work. So after we graduated, and for the next probably, I don't know, maybe 5-6 years, we all read each other's work. We'd get together in the pub and we'd critique it.
Brilliant.
We'd go through it and go, right, this is what you kind of find people you trust.
Yeah,
you find
that is amazing.
But it's also like, you've got to finish this by today because I've got to read it before we meet on Thursday. So
yes, exactly.
Those things, you just have a bit of professional courtesy with each other. But I love that kind of stuff. It's definitely worked for my brain.
Yeah,
getting it in.
Was there a winner, like a sort of someone that rose to the top between you and Tony and Amanda, or was it fairly spread?
Oh, always me. No, it was very even. It was because we were all battling different issues. So for me, it was whether my 9-year-old was particularly needing me at the time, or how much time I'd had without him. For Tony, it was being dragged into court.
Yeah.
And for Amanda, it had been, I think, being dragged into other projects and then suddenly being given the go-ahead to do this one in a very short time. So, having to kind of get on it very quickly and plot very quickly. So for all of us, we had all these things that were dragging us away. And it was super. I hope they don't mind me telling them this stuff, everyone this stuff, but I assume not. but they were brilliant and are brilliant. And I'm having had, I've basically abandoned them for the last sort of 9 weeks because I renovated a house and then moved into it. So I've literally just not written in that time because I just knew that I was going to get mad if I was going to try. And so I started again today, and it's the first bit of writing.
How was it getting back on the horse? Was it slow, or were you
It's always slow. No, I mean there's the pleasure, but I always find it immensely slow that when I come back after a gap. And in fact, what I tell myself now is if I can manage 2 hours and just to break a little bit into it and remind myself what I was doing, that's plenty for the first day. And then the next day will be more.
Even if you've been on holiday for 2 weeks and you come back, you're like,
yeah.
Oh, where was I? Who are these people? Who are you? I wrote you. Oh yeah, I remember you now. You're going to kill somebody in a minute. I remember now.
It's that weird feeling of, did I really write this?
Yeah,
it's
no.
always a little alarming.
I'm glad you have that. See, do you know, sometimes when you read back on something, even before it's, like when you read back on notes and you think, did the editor sneak that in?
That's it.
Because that's really good, that bit. I didn't write that, did I?
love it.
Yeah, that's weird. I love that feeling there. And also trying to explain to people how when you're in the midst of writing something that you thought you knew exactly what was going to happen, and then it goes off piece, and then the character turns up, and then so it's like, I said at one point, I was writing the scene, and then I was crying my eyes out. I didn't know that was going to happen. They're like, how the hell did you not know it was going to happen? It's your book. You're like, well,
so natural.
but that wasn't in the plan. The plan was that this was going to happen, but then when it was writing, it ended up being that, and then it was really sad. So then it did happen.
That's it. And I'm really glad that other people do this as well, because I don't know if you're both similar on the whole sort of planning versus pantsing thing, isn't it? But I mean, I'm a real hybrid, because I basically sit down and I make a plan that's it's all color coded and it's all very structured. And until I've written my plan, I'm not ready to start writing. And I get my felt tips out. Yep. I have a great time.
Stationary plastic.
Yeah, exactly. And then when I finish writing my plan, I basically put it aside. I never look at it again.
Yeah, that's exactly what I do. It's on record cards, and I've got a whole desk. I've specifically built a 3-meter desk so that I could fit an entire novel in spaced out record cards, different color coding. I love it. I do all of that. Pack it all up, put a crocodile clip on it, put it in a box, and right away.
There's my latest.
This is great, Chris.
That's it.
That's the plan.
1 A4 page. And
show me. I want to go.
Say again?
I want spoilers. Show me.
No. I've made extra notes on this side, but that will give stuff away for what I'm about to send you in a few weeks' time, so I'm not going to...
So you just do 2 sides of A4? I do loads more than that.
That's like... With my first book, I didn't do any... I literally just sat down and thought, what will happen next?
I did used to do that with... So I wrote some kid stuff between the first book that didn't sell and my next book. Was when I was waiting for editors to come back to me, basically, in the big hiatus when it didn't sell. And I wrote quite a lot of kids stuff online on Wattpad, and it got featured. So basically, I had a contract with them where I had to write 2 chapters a week, and I just basically was like, well, this is all quite rushed. But the way it worked for me best was just to write it, to plot and worry, And all I did was make sure I finished every chapter on a cliffhanger. And that was me, it was me done. And I really enjoyed it. And I had a blast. I just think my crime brain is slightly sort of lacking, because I can't quite get the sort of reveals right unless I put them down a bit. But then what happens is I then, when I'm writing it, and I don't know if you're both the same, but when I'm feeling sort of how long I've been or what the reader has been through at this point, I go, nah, that's too boring, or that's too much tension and they need some relief or whatever, and I change it hugely, but I kind of need it.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I'm exactly the same as you. I plot, and then I start writing. And I go into, because I write in Scrivener, and then I put all the things that I've plotted in Scrivener. And then you get to a scene and you go, oh, this is what I thought I was going to write at this point. That's not what's needed here. So you end up with a trash bin on Scrivener of 100 scenes that you thought you might need that never actually needed to be.
Past Sean was just so verbose.
Polonius and Hamlet, just blah blah blah, 16 words. Get on with it. Get out from the application, you old fool. Anyway, all of that. What are you reading right now, Gytha?
I just finished reading a completely non-crime related book, which was really good for whilst moving house, particularly. I found really engaging. It's Helly Acton's The Shelf, which was is a quite sort of it's a feminist take on a kind of breakup novel, and it was really good, and it was exactly what I needed at the time. And I've now got Harriet Tice's The Lies You Told to finish off,
right.
and then I've got some great books to read, and now they're actually back unpacked again. I'm absolutely looking forward to it. I've got Chris's book to read. I've got what else have I got? And I just ordered Gillian McAllister's How to Disappear, and I've got lots. So I'm really, really excited to be reading again, because honestly, when I was moving, I couldn't cope with anything which involved having to, the guesswork, the kind of trying to solve the case type things, because my brain was just melting. And that's why so having had a recommendation to read something completely different, I was like, this is great, this is perfect. It's just a different way of using your brain, isn't it? And I really enjoyed it. So but it's nice now. I've got a little bit more time.
Yeah, it's why one of my other authors, Matt Costello, only ever reads non-fiction when he's writing.
Really?
To not muddy any waters in the brain of what he's doing. And it's actually a really interesting tip, because you don't find yourself doing any sort of late night parodying in your dream world of what you need to
I suppose that makes sense. I mean, I suppose I kind of think you either have to go one way or the other, don't you? You either have to be reading so much that nothing's going to make a big impact on you, because everything's just in there in the mix, or you have to be reading something completely different, I suppose. And I definitely tend to opt for the whole, I will read all the crime, but which is why I always say yes to all the books to review, and then feel terrible because it takes me honestly months, because I've got like my bookshelf there. This is like one of the two very, very small bookshelves downstairs. There's a mammoth shelf upstairs, and then there is also a massive crate, which used to be a toy box full of books, and most of them are books I've said I will read.
Exactly. You would love to, but there's not enough life.
I do get around to most of them in the end. I think I'm just normally not quite in time for the publication date, which makes me feel terrible. Because I'd love to, because I do want to be there supporting on the day, but then I'm like, but this other one that I said, you know how it goes.
Yeah, there's too many books.
Too many books.
Are you reading the same thing as me?
No, I don't think so. I've seen you just lift it off the shelf there.
I'm reading this. It's the proof. It's the last thing to burn. Will Dean's The Last Thing.
That's so exciting! I want one.
Look, it's got a fancy burned cover.
Yeah.
I love it.
It's very cool, isn't it?
It's I mean, honestly, it arrived a couple of days ago in the post, and I was like, "Oh, that's nice." And I opened the first page, and then all of a sudden I was 40 pages in, and
that's good to hear.
That's very good. I'm very excited about that one. I love his Tuva books. They're just so so immersive and really atmospheric. So.
Yeah, this is. I mean, it's a standalone, but it's absolutely compelling. From I'm 60 pages in now, but
cool. I might get on that next. I'm reading Don Nolan's After Dark.
Yeah.
Because he's on next week, and we did a bit of a book swap. I sent him. He got a raw deal. I sent him one, and he sent me both of his, which I feel a bit bad about. But they're both like, his writing style is just like beautiful, but also there's lots of sort of, the first thing is pretty bloody and barbaric, but it's
coming from
really,
you,
really good.
quite. And I'm going through Chris's last set of editorial notes on book 2. We're doing the final proof right now, and just clearing off all of the commentary between the two of us. And there's one that he'd written something, and it was like, "Ooh, it's nice, but it made me wince." And he just typed back, "Wimp."
I know which bit you're talking about. And now that I think back to it, it's pretty,
It did make me wince.
Yeah,
I love it. I love it.
And he also got a note from me like, "Fuck off, I'm crying."
Yeah. I think some people are going to be upset about that part.
You're not going to, I don't think everybody is going to be upset about that part.
That's a win though, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, fuck people up. Shall we?
I was thinking emotion, but okay.
In inverted commas, can hear you. You are speaking in public.
You can edit that bit there.
I advise you to not suggest that you deliberately fucked with your readers. Anyway,
shall we end with a 1-star superstar?
Let's do it. Do you know this? You know this, Gytha?
No.
Every week, Chris trolls the internet to find a 1-star review, not of your book, but of another book that we all know of and fiercely disagree with the 1-star review of. But from the 1-star review, we have to guess what book it is.
Oh, this is great. Okay, great.
Okay. I tried to pick some with some clues in it, so you might, it's gettable. So 1 star, Mo thinks it's rubbish. Never thought I would write such a review for a book. I loved the previous 3. This book is poor, filled with obscure words designed to show how clever the author was. A travelogue of London streets. Up here, along there, down here, fillers. Plot could fill 100 pages, but dragged through 649. I was determined to finish, thinking it must get better. Wrong. The family secret was ludicrous, unbelievable. Ending designed to be enigmatic and wanting more was weak. Just don't care now. Wasted money on hardback. Charity shops will soon be filled.
Oh.
Jesus.
Family secret. And 649. Is that Lethal White?
Mm-hmm, it is.
Boom!
Well done. I think you're the first guest in a while to get it, to beat Sean, so well done.
Oh, yay. Sorry, Sean.
I always feel bad because I'm just like, is it that? And then go, oh, right, the game's over.
Yeah, and I did it instead. That was good, though. That had lots of good clues.
Yeah. Are you? Have you read them?
Yes, I have. Yeah, and I enjoyed them. And I did enjoy Lethal White. I thought it was cool. I was just watching a couple of nights ago the first bit of the dramatization of it as well, having not seen any of the dramatizations at all.
I thought of all of them so far, I've enjoyed. I've watched them all, and I think Lethal White's doing the best job. I thought.
Yeah, I think it was really good.
Interesting.
Did you finish it last night?
No, I'm 2 episodes behind on account of I don't have any internet.
Oh yeah, of course.
Well, now you know,
I think I did both.
Now you know there's a family secret.
Spoilers.
Will you read the 5th?
Definitely. 900 pages. Bring it on.
I've ordered it, so I'm quite looking forward to getting into it. It's going to take me the rest of the year. Like, usually I'm pretty okay at reading, but I'm so, like, my sort of mojo's gone at the minute, and I think it'll take me a while. Or maybe this will be the one that, like, sparks it again.
Is this the one that kicked off this huge Twitter storm today?
Oh, was there?
About J.K. Rowling?
Yeah.
I didn't see.
Because she's constantly vocally against trans people.
Yeah.
And then everybody's picked up because I think it's been announced plot-wise that this is a cis man dressed as a woman killing people. So this is it. So then everybody's gone.
Oh,
You're targeting.
that's a shame.
Because I only looked at what was happening because the hashtag RIP JK Rowling was.
Oh man,
right.
And this is where Twitter is at its worst place, because you go, that's an author who's writing stuff. You can have whatever opinion she wants. It's up to her. We don't have to agree with them. That's the point of opinions.
Yeah, it's a sad.
Don't stop doing death threats and RIPs to people.
No, the RIP. I mean, that is a bit horrible. I mean, it's an interesting one because I think it's a shame when books become kind of all about making a point. So for me, that might spoil it a little bit because I'm much more interested in it when it's a book where, she wants to write it for the story, not for a kind of. But then, to be fair, I mean, I say that, but the whole, so much of Harry Potter is to make a point that autocrats are horrible people and oppressing minorities is horrible, and there's lots of stuff in there which is making a point too. So I'm not sure I'm right.
I know. I mean, and this is a pure speculation based on absolutely nothing at all, and based on no opinion. But she may have originally made some of the comments that people found so absolutely hideous because she'd been reading, researching, and embroiled in this book and this character. And we as writers know that you can become deeply invested in characters and the way they think and feel.
And
some of the comments that she originally became targeted for, now knowing that this is a character she's developed, may have come from that perspective, that research. I'm not making any defenses because I think it's indefensible, but you just sort of speculate as to why an otherwise intelligent person would be making those kind of.
Yeah, and I think sometimes it's also about purely about fear, isn't it? It's fear of something that related to something that she's experienced, but different. And I think fear has a lot to answer for, and I think it's often the root cause of people being bigoted against one group or another. And I think it's a real shame. But I think it's a very nuanced debate that needs to be had, which doesn't involve telling her to die or anything, because
it's never happened on Twitter. It's the antithesis of nuance.
Absolutely. And I just want to talk to her about it and say, I understand this, but you do realise that if you just look at the facts, your fears are basically completely unjustified, because it is pretty much 100% straight men who are non-trans who do these crimes, who commit these crimes. Yeah. And it's almost not non-existent is the opposite, but I see where it comes from. I see that.
Which is why I was when I was reading that stuff today, I just thought, oh, that's where she's come up with this idea from. Then,
it makes a lot of sense.
Because if your main character that you've created is a cis man dressed as a woman, killing people, luring people into, you're like, so this entire and the cynic in me, or maybe the publisher in me, went, that's a fucking clever marketing campaign that you've been doing for this. I mean,
that's pretty cynical. I like it.
Yeah, but you know what I mean? Like, that's not stupid, is it?
No. Well, that's a weird thought, isn't it?
This is the most cerebral end we've had to a podcast. Usually after the one-star superstar, we descend into some sort of madness.
I feel like I failed.
No, I feel like you've brought us up a level.
I think
this is exactly what we needed.
This is never what happens.
We need to end on intellect rather than giggling.
Yeah.
I'm sure we can end giggling. It's all fine.
Well, thank you so much for joining us for this crazy hour.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I've had a blast.
Really, really looking forward to number 3 in February.
And paperback's like this Thursday, is that right?
It's this Thursday for Watching for the Dark paperback. Yeah, so it's very soon.
Awesome.
Well remembered, Chris. You're really good.
He's on it.
He's on it. You're both on it.
Yeah, you're both on something.
I like that Rob. Yeah, well, I like that Rob Parker, who's just off somewhere.
Yeah, no, he's on the what he's on.
Excellent.
He's on about his 16th pint of Guinness.
All right, that's what he's on. That's fine. If that's his choice, he wants to prioritise that. That's fine.
Yeah.
It's not like he's going to have to buy us a drink at the next ever time we ever meet in person.
Perfect. No, that's a great idea. That vague promise of future drinking.
Yeah, we're thinking sort of autumn 2021, I think, is going to be a safe bet.
Don't say that. Roll it, bring it on. Bring it on.
Look, that'll be just before book 4 comes out in February 2022. So,
Yeah, perfect. Love it.
It'll all clear up in time for book 3. That's what I'm gonna say.
Yes, I hope so. I hope so.
Everything. COVID or your writing block?
No, just everything. Everything's going to be fine by February. You've heard it here first.
There we go. Chris predicts.
Oh, I like that segment. Chris predicts. I could do something every week.
This
week, I'll start it off. I'll go big. Everything's going to be fine by February.
Can you do lottery numbers next week? Because we really need help here.
Well, it's just as long as your slogans are better than eat out to help out, I'm happy, honestly. Right, I need my 9-year-old is now up again, so I might need to go and put him to bed. So I will bid you a fond farewell.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for coming.
It's been brilliant. Excellent. See you soon.
Bye.